Okay, so for this puberty teaching moment, we want to focus on erections. We talked about like we're doing overview conversations and hitting like the roadmap of what's happening in puberty. But then as a child enters into the stage of puberty, we want to teach them more detail how to manage what they are experiencing or is like coming right now, right?
Totally.
So with erections, what are things that you would want to teach? And I'm really curious too, because erections occur throughout life. So how do you teach this throughout life? And then what shifts at puberty?
Yeah. So one is the first thing I want to do is make this like, hey, this is just something we all deal with,
Mm-hmm.
And like in my home, we have dogs that are both male, and like they get erections,
Yeah, so you get to see
And
that.
sometimes it's just because they're getting scratched or they're relaxed or
Mm-hmm.
they just woke up, and like I want to talk about that. Like erections happen for a lot of different reasons,
Awesome. Yeah.
And like let's go over some of those reasons, right?
Okay.
Some reasons an erection happened is because your body needs to clean out those parts, and they don't have a ton of blood flow all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when you're asleep, you at certain phases of sleep, you get this blood flow that comes and cleans your penis.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the purpose of it, is to go send a little more blood flow, get a full erection, make sure anything that's waste from cells is getting cleaned out via that blood.
Cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And being oxygenated as well. Like
Okay.
it's like, here we're sending in the groceries
Mm-hmm.
and taking out the garbage,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that happens a bunch of times at night. And sometimes you wake up during that.
Yeah.
Right? And so like sometimes people will wake up with an erection, right? Or like I've had times where I'm zoned out and I'm starting to relax and my body's like, oh, we're just chilling. This is a great time for me to send in the groceries and take out the garbage from my penis.
Cool.
And so like those can happen just randomly. Now, these sometimes will get referred to in your culture as like an NRV, like a no reason boner is what they get called by teenagers. And so like one, know what that NRV means,
Mm-hmm.
because like sometimes kids will say like, I have an NRV. Like I remember that happening in high school and junior high,
Okay.
And that's what people mean. Like I just think like knowing what people mean matters, right?
Yeah.
Now, do I think announcing it, like if you get to choose how you're going to manage it,
Yeah.
Like I individually would never announce an erection.
Right.
But like if that's the way that a child feels, then great.
Awesome. Okay.
So that would be my first thing, is going through all these different whys. So we went through the cleaning.
Yeah.
Right? There could be like arousal, right? Where it's like, oh, like I'm drawn to this person. And your body, when it thinks, oh, maybe I could connect with them sexually, starts booting up.
Yeah.
That's just true for men.
Yeah.
Right? Like even for like me as an adult, like if my brain thinks sex might be coming, my body's like, all right, start booting up.
Yeah.
Like there's a chance this is coming. And so my body will boot up also because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like those are the two primary reasons that my body would get an erection.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Honestly, sometimes you know why, sometimes you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Like that's just kind of part of it.
Yeah. You don't necessarily need to know why.
Yeah.
But that just know that there are different reasons.
Yeah. And then I would transfer from that to management.
Okay.
Right? Is like, okay, now that we've kind of covered why they happen, let's talk about like how to manage them. Right?
And would you talk about here at puberty, like as your hormones change, those erections, like they may come more frequently, and as your body is growing and changing, they'll be more obvious.
Yes.
And that's why we're talking about management now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like that's exactly what you want to be covering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because like obviously like size changes
Mm-hmm.
make them way more obvious,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they become significantly more frequent.
Yeah.
And they're the most frequent in that phase of puberty, right? With all these
Right.
hormonal changes. Like,
Right.
because that blood flow, if it's going to change, it needs more groceries and more garbage. Like
Yeah.
it has to happen more often. And so like there actually is more erections for no reason, not
Okay.
an arousal reason,
Yeah.
when you're actually in puberty.
Okay.
you
Cool.
know? And those actually fade out a little bit as you fully mature.
Finish
Yeah,
growth.
right.
Yeah.
And so then I would move into management, right?
Okay.
And I would talk about like me and how I managed first.
Okay.
Then I would move to like, this is what I think is culturally normal
Mm-hmm.
in your school, And then I would be like, look, and you get to choose is kind of where I would end, right? So
Okay.
if I was starting with me, I would be like, okay, like when I was young, like I remember first getting these and being so embarrassed. Because like at first I didn't really think like, oh, no one really notices. Like, no, why would you be looking there? Like kind of was like my phase
Yeah.
at first. And then I remember walking past a mirror once and having an erection with like boxers, which were what were popular when I was in high school,
Okay.
and gym shorts on. And it was so obvious.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like what are people thinking? And that what are people thinking is such a natural thing.
Yeah, especially at this phase of life. Like they are supposed to be wondering, what are people thinking?
Totally, because now they're wondering more about how do I fit in this world, not how do I fit in my home.
Yeah, in my family, yeah.
Right. That is when I was like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? And I remember my friends talking about waistbanding. And I was like, what in the crap is that? You know?
Okay.
And so, and then like, I remember asking one of my buddies, and I was probably, I don't know, I probably was like a freshman. I matured a little late. I was like a freshman probably in high school. And I was like, hey, like, what do you mean waistband? He's like, oh, you just like flip it up and like stick the top of your penis in the waistband. And then when it is no longer erect, it'll just fall back down. And so like, you don't really notice because it's waistband. So you just kind of like, and I was like, honestly, I'm so lucky that friend didn't make me feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because like, he totally could have.
Okay.
But I went with like a sincere question, and like he made me, I'm like, oh, okay. And so now, right, like if I have an erection and I'm standing, or I'm like, I need to stand up, I'll find a way to turn my body, and then I'll just flip my penis up, and then it'll be caught kind of in my waistband, right, and in that tension. And now, honestly, people barely could notice.
And besides others noticing, is it just more comfortable too?
It's more comfortable because you don't have the tension against your pants. That then you're like, oh my god, everyone's looking. Because
right.
you feel it.
Yeah.
And so then you think everyone's looking.
Okay.
So you're embarrassed even if people aren't.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think the focus, like as a teenager, really in my head was, people are going to notice, right? Yeah. Even though I would say it's uncomfortable too.
Sure.
Like I would say, as an adult, I would say that. As a teenager, I don't know if I would have pushed on that. Then I would also talk about, like, for me, I noticed that like the gym shorts were so obvious that like I didn't want to wear boxers to gym. Right? Like I don't even know actually in schools if they still change for gym, but like we had to change for gym. We went to public school, and like I would purposely wear compression shorts if I was going to
have gym class. Yeah. Okay.
And like gym shorts were also like things we would wear sometimes just to school.
Sure.
And it was the same thing where it's like, okay, if I'm going to wear gym shorts, then like I want to wear compression, right? Yeah. Now, culturally, I think that what I did is pretty normal still. Like, I think most people are trying to be discreet about their erections. Like, I think sometimes people can feel invaded or, like, uncomfortable if they notice someone else's erection. Okay. Right? And that's male and female. Right. Like, it doesn't really matter who. Right? Like, if you notice someone else's erection, it can feel a little uncomfortable. Sure. Just, right? Like, draws a lot of attention. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, it can draw some attention. People are like, wait, what's going on? Yeah. Like this even happens with our dogs, right? Like we see like our dog's Murphy, right? Like Murphy and like this red penis comes out where it's normally kind of covered in hair. It's like, whoa, and there's this whoa moment. And
whoa,
like,
what's happening? Yeah. Yeah,
that also happens there. There becomes this like, whoa, what's happening? And so I think culturally what's mainly accepted is trying to be discreet about having an erection. Even though it's normal and it's happening to you and all your peers every day. Right. Yeah. And that would be the extent of really what I would teach about erections.
Another thing that you said before that I think is really great is like and you get to choose, right? Yeah. You get to decide how you handle it. If you do it this way or another way, or you don't worry about it, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Like really. Like, and I want that message to be sent. It's because I want my child to be a chooser more than anything. Now, I also don't want my kid to have like a terrible puberty experience. Right. Like, I think we talked about this story, but like we had a kid in our school who like, I don't think was wearing underwear underneath his gym shorts, and he got an erection and it was so freaking obvious. And he was called tent pole for like, honestly, like probably a year and a half. Yeah. And like, I don't want that to happen to my kid. Yeah. So one, I might even warn them and say like, look, this, like culturally, this is what happened when I was in high school. I don't know what it's like now. Yeah. But I do want to kind of warn them of what their choice risks are. Like I want the consequences to be clear about their choice. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I might even press them because like in my opinion, I think men should make an effort to manage their erections and discreetly manage them. Okay. Yeah. And so I would be pushing that direction. Like I would be like, if I saw my son with an erection in our home, I might even say like, hey, are you gonna do anything about that? Just I want him to know that other people notice. Not I guess a little bit to make him feel dumb. Because if he's going to hear that from someone, I want it to be from his freaking dad. Yeah. Not from, like, someone else. Yeah. Or that he hears that he has this nickname. And so I think that's the place for it to exist. Cool. Yeah, that's a hard aspect of this for parents, I think. It's just, like, how do we manage our discomfort around some of their choices, right?
and like where do we want to like what do we want to press on, where do we want to be like the ones leading out with creating awareness, and balancing that with helping them feel supported. That can be our work in this.
Totally. And it's a hard balance.
Yeah, I can say that like in my experience it has been not always easy either direction.
Yeah, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, and like it's a balance that you as a parent are going to just have to kind of find.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and like, and you may not understand their culture perfectly.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because like my sisters all kind of ditched the bras like at the end of high school, whatever. It was like, I don't know if it's still big, but it was big then, at least like maybe 5 to 10 years ago, you know? And like, honestly, I wasn't super comfortable with it at first. I was like, oh my gosh, like your nipple is so obvious to me, you know? That it was like, this is weird, you know? And like, I didn't like it, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I need to just understand my own discomfort. It's maybe just me, you know?
Yeah.
And it may be to say like, I'm not super comfortable with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that like, that's not saying you don't get to choose.
Yeah. It's like you get to choose, but like, honestly, that makes me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And like, they still get to choose, and it's just my feeling.
Right.
Like, I'm not making them choose something. You know? And then I think it just help them be aware of others, which is, you know, that's what we want our kids to be, is aware of others.
Yeah. Cool.
I think this is a great example of like, hey, and honestly, if people don't believe exactly what I believe, good for you. Like, teach yours.
Teach what own what you believe.
Totally.
Yeah.
But like, I think teaching why it happens,
and
then how to manage is the two things that I would really be focusing on. Why it happens, like who it happens to, I guess, and then how to manage it.
Cool. Awesome.